Payment of traveling claims. Submission of claims. Traveling claims should normally be submitted monthly or for payment, but may be accumulated for a period not exceeding 3 months. The specific approval of the permanent secretary with responsibility for the respective ministry/department will be required for any claim exceeding 3 months. The officer should be required to state the reasons for the late submission of the claims in excess of 3 months. So remember, you must submit your claim no later than 3 months. You should not have a case where you have claim for 4 months ago, then 3 months ago, 2 months ago, and then this month. It should not exceed 3 months. Otherwise, you must submit some reason, have a reason why it exceeded 3 months. Assessment of claims. Heads of department should ensure that official traveling by officers is restricted to the minimum consistent with the effective discharge of the duties. Restricted to the minimum consistent with the effective discharge of their duties. When determining itinerary and mode of conveyance, it should be borne in mind that the government principle is the need for economy of public funds, taking into account transportation expenses, subsistence allowance, and saving of time. So it should not seem excessive. It should look, the figures, the money you're asking for in the claim should be reasonable. Traveling allowance is not paid between the officer's home and his or her place of business, except in provisions in subsection 4 below. So you're not paid claim for traveling between your home and the office. 3. Where an officer is required to occupy quarters provided by the government at a distance in excess of 10 kilometers from his or her office or place of business, he or she may be paid traveling expenses at the prescribed rate for the mileage traveled in excess of 10 kilometers in respect of his or her journey to attend office and to return home each day. That's where you're required, they require you to live somewhere that is more than 10 kilometers away from your office. So if your office is 11 kilometers away, then you can be paid claim of the 11 minus 10, which is 1 kilometer each day. Only expenses incurred on one such round trip daily will be reimbursed. One round trip. This means that in case an officer whose official residence is located 19 kilometers away from his or her office, he or she would be eligible for reimbursement of traveling expenses for 18 kilometers a day. That is the 19 minus 10, which is 9 going, and the 19 minus 10, which is 9 coming back. 9 and 9, 18 a day in respect of those days on which he or she attends office. Subsistence allowance will not be paid to an officer who qualifies for the benefits under this subsection in respect of his or her attendance at office. Right? Subsistence allowance will not be paid if you qualify for the benefits under this subsection in respect of your attendance at office. So if you're being paid this particular allowance, you're required to live more than 10 kilometers and you're paid traveling allowance of the distance exceeding the 10 kilometers daily, then you will not be eligible for subsistence allowance. Claims involving others. Where it is necessary for more than one officer to proceed to any point on a particular duty, the officers shall travel in one car, provided the arrangement is agreeable to all parties, and in such case, the vehicle to be used will, whenever possible, be one for which an upkeep allowance is paid. Alright? So one vehicle, you should travel in one vehicle, provided the arrangement is agreeable to all parties. In such case, the vehicle to be used will, wherever possible, be one for which an upkeep allowance is paid. So that vehicle must be one that for which the upkeep allowance is paid. You could travel in different vehicles, yes, but you cannot claim for your other vehicle. Where an officer conveys in his or her own motor vehicle other persons who would otherwise have to be transported at government expense, he or she will be paid in addition to any other transport allowance a rate per kilometer per person at the prescribed rate. When it is necessary for more than one officer of a department to hire transportation for the purpose of traveling on duty from and to the same place on the same date, those officers should arrange to travel by the same conveyance, and payment for motor vehicle hire will not be made for separate conveyance unless it can be clearly shown that traveling separately was justifiable in view of special circumstances. So if you have to hire a vehicle, taxi or a bus, and it's more than one of you should travel in the same vehicle unless it would be overloaded, or maybe one of them has a contagious disease and have to travel separately, or maybe they have some special physical challenge and one of the vehicles is equipped to handle that. Those may be justifiable reasons. But anyway, we look at accommodation while traveling on duty. Officers traveling on duty should try to obtain accommodation as close as possible in the area to which they have traveled. Continuation of allowances. Officers removed from traveling duties. When an officer who is in receipt of a motor vehicle upkeep/commuted allowance is transferred permanently to a post where such allowance is not payable, he or she will continue to receive the full allowances for a period not exceeding 3 months. Alright. When an officer in receipt of an upkeep/commuted allowance is seconded or appointed to act in a post to which the law of no traveling allowance is attached, the law or no traveling allowance is attached, he or she may be paid the full allowance attached to his or her substantive post during the period of his or her secondment, or acting appointment subject to review of the position at the expiration of 6 months. Okay, so you're now entitled to no traveling allowance or a lower traveling allowance. Then during your secondment, after 6 months, you will continue to get the allowance, but you may be paid the full allowance attached to your substantive post during the period of secondment or acting appointment, subject to a review. They will review it after 6 months. Allowance during leave. An upkeep/commuted allowance shall be payable during all period of sick, departmental, vacation, pre-retirement, maternity, and approved training courses, including full pay study leave taken locally. So you still get the allowance while on those leave. The provisions of this order shall not apply in cases where an officer is granted leave prior to resignation or separation from the service in any circumstances or prior to permanent transfer out of office, except specified in subsection 1 above. So, is granted leave prior to resignation. It may be that they submit a letter of resignation and it will take effect sometime in the future. So they would not get the upkeep allowance between the submission of the resignation, right? They've granted prior, they're on leave now, say they're going to resign in 1 month's time, and they take leave now and they already submitted their letter of resignation. They will not be paid those allowances during that period. The allowance will also not be payable during the period of pre-retirement leave where the officer has been employed during such leave by an agency financed from public funds on terms which include the payment of traveling allowance. Okay. If the traveling allowance attached to the substantive office from which he or she is retiring is higher than that payable in relation to the person's re-employment, then the higher rate of allowance may be paid up to the date of expiration of pre-retirement leave. This payment shall be in lieu of the allowance payable in respect of the re-employed position. The allowance in relation to his or her re-employment will be payable when the person's retirement becomes effective. Where the study is undertaken overseas, the allowance should be paid only for the period of vacation leave utilized in connection with the study. So it's not used for study leave when you're overseas, but if you take part of your vacation leave to cover your period of study, then the allowance will be paid during that vacation leave period. Where an officer attains the maximum vacation leave accommodatable and is paid salary in lieu of vacation leave, the traveling allowance should be paid. So you took all the vacation leave available and then you cannot take any more. But so the maximum vacation leave accommodatable and is paid salary in lieu of vacation leave. Where an officer attains maximum vacation leave accommodatable and is paid salary in lieu of vacation leave, Okay. The traveling allowance should be paid for the entire period. The traveling allowance should be paid for the entire period in respect of which salary in lieu of leave is paid. Alright, so next time we look at subsistence allowance.